about where you think you're at going into your very first game here in terms of the big picture, and where you think you're at with this week, this month type picture?
Big picture being years or
Let's call it McDavid's a window.
well, I think McDavid window is, it's going to go to his mid-30s, so it's a big window. I'm excited going into tomorrow night. It's first game of the year. There's always excitement, optimism, anticipation for where we are. I think that we're pretty pleased with training camp. You always would like to have some players play a little better. I think we've had some players that have surprised us. We felt like we had some difficult decisions to make when we put the roster together. And the difficult decisions, I think, speak that we thought we had some players that, we talked, Sam Gagner, he's an NHL player. We made a decision to put him on waivers. He's cleared. He's going to go to Bakersfield to start. So tough decisions are always good decisions. So I think in preseason, most of the rosters are half NHL, half American League. Preseason can be deceiving. I think you got to get into the regular season starting tomorrow night to really evaluate our players and where we're at. But I know that our guys are excited. I'm excited. I know the coaching staff's excited to get going here and seeing how we stack up.
Was there any problem convincing yourself to do what you normally do in terms of sending players down to the AHL to develop? You got like 6 of them or something like that.
Yeah, Terry, a week ago we sent down some players that I think are going to really impact this franchise down the road. Bouchard, Samorukov, Benson, Yamamoto, McLeod. I wanted them to get down there, find a place to live, get ready. They're opening their season on Friday night, and we need those players to develop into NHL players. We went out and signed this summer a lot of players that, they're 24 to 28 years of age. I'm going to call them pros. Whether they've played pro in Europe or they've played pro in North America, they're pros. They're seasoned veterans, and we thought, we tipped the coaches, Keith Gretzky, Scott House, and the people on the management staff that we wanted to get more pros on the bottom part of the roster. We wanted to bring some different dimensions, penalty killers, some speed. We think we've done that, but the real test obviously starts tomorrow night with Vancouver, and it's one game, and when the game is over, you'll assess, it's an 82-game marathon, and win or lose, we'll assess Thursday morning, make some adjustments, and get at it on Saturday night. And but I think obviously we'll have a better feeling 10, 15 games in what we've got. Certainly we know that we got to get off to a decent start. We want to be in the hunt, and if you fall too far behind, St. Louis last year made a comeback, but I think for the most part, if you fall too far behind, it's a real uphill battle when you get to the second half of the season.
Anybody asked you to investigate training for any other players on waivers?
Yeah, that's what goes on this time of the year.
You don't want to give up anything for assets?
Yeah, I think that would be well, and I think the needs that I think that we need. I don't know that those types of players were necessarily available. Well, I think you're always looking for. I would say to you that if you assessed our team, you're always looking for. I think most teams are looking for another top 6 forward. I think most teams would like another top 4 defenseman. Certainly, we'd like to have both of those, and then we're auditioning for a third line center. We signed Riley Sheehan. You got Cave. You got Haas. We'll see how that sorts it out. Certainly, I know Tip is going to, as the game goes on, the season wears on, kind of move people around and find some solutions. But those types of players that I've talked about, I don't think are necessarily out there. Those teams are keeping those players.
Ken, you're new here. You've talked a lot about stability, which takes time to build. You don't build it in 6 months or 3 months. Yet this is a market that you can't really look at the fans and say, you know, we might not make the playoffs, you gotta have some patience. They've been patient there for a long time. How you walk that line?
Well, I don't think I've said that. You might have said that.
Okay. Do you have a
I
playoff
mean, you
this
don't
year?
put words in my mouth. So what I've said from day one is that our goal is to compete for a playoff spot. We've got a nucleus of players. We need to surround them better. On the short term, on the 1 year look, on the 19-20 look, our goal is to put some veteran players on the bottom part of the roster and compete for a playoff spot. On the longer look, while that's going on, we need to develop players at the American League level or with players that we own, whether it's Lavoie that's in Halifax or Broberg that's over in Sweden. Those people on the longer term look need to be part of the solution. So I'm not talking rebuild. I'm talking about we got to compete for a playoff spot. And did we make the right moves? Certainly the answer's in the 82 game season. But as we speak here today, I think what I'm going to tell you, 31 teams in the league feel they're leaving camp and have a chance to compete for the playoff spot. And if not 31, 26 or 27, and we'd be in one of the 26 or 27. Now, lots got to go right. Certainly, as you go along, injuries are going to be a factor, and how many injuries and who's injured and how long they're out, and are they hurt? All those things are going to be factors. They test your depth. But I think as we sit here today, I want to get off to a good start. I want to be in the race, and when the calendar kind of turns into March, somewhere along that line, you got to win big games. But you got to position yourself that those big games and those big wins mean something, and we need to play really good over the first 60, 65 games, or be in the race, and then in the month of March, you got to win big games. And if you want to win a playoff series in April, you got to win big games. And if you want to go to the second round, you got to win big games in April and May. So certainly the goal here is to be in the playoffs, to compete for a playoffs, but it's October the 2nd or something. I'm going to worry about the playoffs in March. We got to put ourselves in that position. So it's all talk. We got to worry about tomorrow night's game, and then you worry about Saturday's game, and then Tuesday's game. And if we take care of business, we'll put ourselves in that position.
Ken, you played goal, you know the position well. What do you see from your goaltenders that makes you believe they can give you good enough goaltending to compete and be in the run and by March?
Well, I think they're NHL goaltenders, so I think that we look at them as being 1A, 1B. What do I mean? Both 40-game goalies. One now, I don't think they're both going to play 40. One's going to play 50. One's going to play 30. One's going to play 45. One's going to play 35. They're going to sort it out by how they play. Certainly, if you're going to be a playoff team, goaltending has to be a positive factor in that to happen. I wasn't here last year. I think that there was a stretch, if I'm not mistaken, when Koskinen played
26 of 32.
Yeah, but I think early in the year too, didn't he win a bunch of games? But he played it. Saves percentage was good. So we're hoping that the pressures. We got two guys. We can go to different guys. Mike Smith obviously has had a great career. He's an older guy, but he's motivated. He's hungry. He's in great shape. He come to camp in great shape. He's been I think a guy that prides himself in being in tremendous shape throughout his career. Those type of players can defy father time a little bit longer than the players that aren't as committed in the gym and making decisions on what they eat. He's a competitive guy. Obviously Mike Smith has a real ability to handle the puck. I think that'll help our defense out when he's in the lineup, and I'm hoping that there's an internal competition between those two guys that they're going to push one another, and the team's going to be the benefactor.
Everybody thought you hit the finish line last year, sort of.
Finish line?
At your career, right?
Oh yeah.
Now you're at the starting line.
Yeah.
Can you just describe all the emotions and feelings and all that's involved in this?
I think the media thought I was at the finish line, but I didn't think that. But I certainly felt that I felt I was at the finish line in Detroit. I felt that it was time for change, and certainly kind of worked behind the scenes with Chris Ilitch and Steve for the transition. You know, it became obvious to me very quickly after the transition. I went to the World Under-18s with Steve Yzerman. We were watching the World Under-18s, and you know, my juices were flowing. Still analyzing players, and when this opportunity came up, got me very, very excited. You know, passionate fan base, a core of great players. You know, I was aware of some of the players. You know, we'd watched Bouchard in Detroit. We had picked high that year. So, you know, Sam Rukov played in Guelph. I'd watched. So I knew that this team had some really good young players, especially on defense. And in talking to Bob Nicholson, as we ultimately worked our way towards that, they made me an offer and I accepted it. I'm excited. You know, I think I'm blessed. I got lots of energy. I got a ton of passion. Obviously, got a lot of experience, and my goal here is to, like the market said, on the short term, I want to try to. We try to make some moves this summer that we can compete for a playoff spot, but I got bigger desires and designs and visions for this team than just competing for a playoff spot. But you're always going to compete for a playoff spot, but certainly want to build it into better than that over the what you're talking the bigger window or the bigger picture.
Ken, on the eve of this home opener, with the changes you've made so far, how do you feel about the identity of this team, the work ethic that you've seen, just, you know, the leaders in this room and how they've been acting so far?
Well, I think we're gonna. You know, somebody asked me yesterday about culture, and it's culture isn't something that I pack in the suitcase and I put in the trunk of the car and I drive it from Detroit with me or fly on the plane. I fly to Edmonton. You got to build it. You got to build it. So what you're talking about is we got to build it. We got to build the team. We got to believe in one another. We got to build a team that can has got some depth, got some different dimensions. You know, that's what we tried to do this summer. You know, we wanted to get some speed, and I think we signed some players. Archibald's got speed, and Nygaard's got speed, and Haas can skate, and Yurko can skate, and then we've got, you know, Sheehan's got some size, and you know, Granlund scored in the past in Vancouver and Calgary. So you brought in different dimensions. Now it's up to us now to. In the coaching staff and the players to kind of find that identity. Certainly, good teams compete hard every night. So that's an identity. We got to compete hard every night. Yeah, Jim. Nothing latest. No. I talked to a couple teams in the last couple of weeks, but I think most teams, Jim, are focused on the opening day roster, what they had in training camp.
And Gagne going to the minors, does he not eat up some ice time that your younger players? Or how do you see Sam going there and what?
Well, first off, you're going to have vets. You know, when you build an American League team, you have to have some veteran players down there. They are important in being the role models and mentors and helping those young kids develop. And I talked to Sam about, you know, Detroit. You know, Dan Cleary went down to Grand Rapids and how much he enjoyed that experience. And it's now led into him being a player development person for the Detroit Red Wings. So we need him to go down there with a great attitude, work hard, but at the same time, I think there's a real good chance at some point in time, like what we named today is going to be the roster on opening day. I think you're going to need 15, 16, 17 forwards. You're going to need 8 or 9 D. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have people that don't play, and we're going to have to at the level that we want them to play, and we're going to make changes. So I also told him, go down, play well, and we're going to be watching. So I think that you know, that job that you're talking about is you know, Jay Woodcroft when you're coaching the American League team, the fine line between developing and winning, but I think it's important to have a winning environment for your young kids to positive environment to develop, but they've got to be given opportunity, but they've also got to be challenged. I'm not big on just because somebody's got potential, you hand them the power play or you hand them the ice time or you hand them. They got to push. They got to take somebody's job. That's what pro hockey is about. It's about competition.
Have you and Dave talked about chunks of the season, and how long are those chunks going to be before you make change? Or how long do you let this group, kind of like a recipe, come together?
Well, I think that's my 22 years of experience as a manager and Dave's 1,200 games behind the bench. There is no blueprint. There is no manual. You go on experience. You go on. That's why I thought it was important to hire somebody that had been behind a bench. We'll make decisions based upon the information. We'll watch a game tomorrow night, and then there's always adjustments. And if you're not making adjustments, you're on a nice winning streak.
So it's not a 5-game chunk, 10-game chunk?
No. I mean, I think that you look at the standings and you look at your team and you look at what's going on and you make decisions on an everyday basis based upon the information that you've got in hand.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Your young players in the minors,
Yeah.
you would call up older players and just keep these younger players down there for
Probably.
till,
Yeah.
you know, at least a couple of months, even if.
Probably. I'd like, I think with the young players, I'd like to get it to at least Christmas, maybe all year. I don't know. I don't know, other than the phenoms, I don't know the 20-year-olds are, and also, Jim, I put Dylan Larkin on the Red Wings, or made a decision, we put him on the Red Wings at 19. Are you better off being, it depends, is the player that we're talking about a player that we think is going to be a top 6 forward here? Well, is he better to be off in a top 6 position in Bakersfield on the power play, playing 18 minutes, or do you bring him up here at the age of 20 and put him on the 4th line and say, okay, learn to check? I think it depends on how you project, where you project that player to be. And that's why I think sometimes when you're in the American League and a player goes up, they don't understand. You got maybe better stats, but you're not coming up to be in the power play in the National League. You're not coming up to play with the best players. You're coming up to be in defensive situations, and maybe so it's a different player. So I think every player is a little bit different, but for the most part, I want those young players to be important and to develop into NHL players that are going to help us win.
Can you articulate
I'll ask.
the conversations you had with the Bouchers, all those guys?
Yes.
I mean, obviously,
Basically, just what I've told them. We're making a decision. They got to go to the American League, and we want them to be important. There's areas of their game, and I've tell each individual what area of the game that we think they need to improve upon to be an Oiler. Keith Gretzky's he and I would have the talk. Keith's job is to work very closely with Jay Woodcroft and report to me on what's going on there on an everyday basis. I'm going to try to get down to Bakersfield once every 6 or 7 weeks to watch 2 or 3 games. Bill Scott's going to go down once every 5 or 6 weeks. Keith Gretzky's going to be down there on a regular basis, and so we're going to be aware of what's going on down there, and how they're playing and how they're developing.
but part of it is becoming pros, right?
Yes, they got to be. Yes, yeah.
As opposed to junior.
Yes, we got to get some of the junior habits out and get the professional habits in. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Ken.